Demographically, lot of similarities and differences. If you just look at, in this case, we were always comparing the first 4 emerging markets with the US. So you'll see, things like urban, rural. India and China are so different from the rest. Brazil is actually even more urban than the US. Russia is sort of like that. India is the exact opposite. It's a very rural country. If that's the case, why are we not designing and innovating for the rural population in India? Well, you know what? The multinationals are not doing that, but the local Indian corporations are doing this, and that's where they're growing. Nokia lost market share last year in India, slipped from 1st to 4th position. And you know who took the 1st position for specific handsets? It was Micromax, exactly. Micromax, a startup company, a startup 2008 Indian company, 4 friends got together and started the company. What they looked at was the opportunities presented by rural populations who wanted the phone. They want to communicate because the landline infrastructure is so bad. But they had certain specific things they wanted to do with that phone. And so Micromax designed specific phones at a cheap price for rural India as well as for poorer people in urban India. And there you go. They're way ahead. So if you know such a simple fact, why not take that into account when you're thinking of innovation in design? Similarly, whether it's literacy or it's inequality of wealth, which is captured by the Gini index, you can see which country, the lower the index, the more equal the country is in terms of income distribution. And the higher the index is, the more unequal the distribution of income. So if you know that a country has a lot of inequality in income distribution, you know one thing. You know that next thing you need to find out is, if it's unequal, which way is it skewed? So are there, as is always the case, a very small percentage of very rich people and a large volume of the population who are very poor? You need to know that, because then your strategy for innovation has to take that into account. The age group breakup in these countries. Some countries are younger, some countries are older in terms of their population demographics. If you know that, you will design for the older or the younger, because you know that that section is the larger section in the population. And you'll see here that, India, for example, has a very large segment who are young compared to the others. And everybody, every local corporation is now on the bandwagon to cater to the youth, because it is such a large segment. But would you do that if you were looking at this 0 to 14 years, would you do that in Russia? You'd think twice, because that's not the largest segment. Though you may think, oh, young people, they're always a good target. But look at the figures, just preliminary figures even, to ask yourself some questions. Every country, every emerging market has a different way to slice and dice the population. China has decided the best way to cater to innovation and design for China is not to look at income-based segmentation, which is very popular in the West. Instead, to look at city-based segmentation. What they're saying is, it is much better to focus your products or services at clusters of cities which have the same purchasing power, the same economic potential, and the same behavior. So slice and dice China according to clusters of cities, and not just according to income. There are older classifications of the Chinese population which really look at, whether you're part of the Communist Party, then you're always at the top, and then others within that. That's a very different way of looking at a population 20 years ago, when it was all about whether you're part of the Communist Party or not, how important you were. Therefore, you earned more, you had more power, and services were created knowing that division. That's changed. Brazil looks at what goods you own. they have a range of products, and they say each family, let's look at whether the family owns a refrigerator, car, washing machine, radio, television, whether it uses detergent powder, etc., etc. Based on that, it classifies the population, saying this section which owns the maximum number of goods, that's the population which will buy and use a lot. They are early adopters. So if you're trying to design, know that this much of the population are early adopters. India looks at your background in terms of education and what is the work you do. Because India has decided in slicing and dicing the population for product ideation and design, more than income, your education background and your employment, whatever work you do, that determines how you behave. So in other words, you may look at two people in India with the same income, and you will come to the conclusion, both of them, because they have this income, they'll both be able to buy products above a certain price. That's very wrong. Because in India, those two people, though they earn the same income, one of them is a postgraduate and works in a foreign bank. The other one earns the same money, has not finished schooling, and is an entrepreneur. Their whole family requirements, the way they think, their attitudes are totally different, though they earn the same money. So both of them will not buy the same television set, even though both of them can afford it, because their ways of thinking are so determined and so different by their education and their occupation. So every country in the emerging market has a different way it's looking at its population. You need to know that. We often have American clients who will come in and say, okay, so we want you to look at this income level, this income level, this income level. And we try to tell them, in America, the income-based segmentation works very well. Doesn't work in India, doesn't work in Brazil. So don't insist on that, because you're not going to get the right information, and your product ideation will be in the wrong direction. India also has, like Brazil, a newer method of looking at what is owned by people, because we feel now in India in the last 5 years, this is actually even better predictor of what products and what kinds of services are preferred by different groups of people. So even in the emerging markets, we are changing the ways we look at ourselves. Technology adoption. Just look at the figures. Russia, this is about mobile phone penetration. Russia, 131.4%. Several people have more than one mobile phone in Russia. That's how rapid and intense the penetration is. Brazil next, China, and then India. Technology adoption is very fast in emerging markets, even though if you look at the per capita income, it's not that high. So a lot of corporations in the West sort of feel, they're really poor people. What's the point of trying to design anything? It's not going to work because it's a country of poor people. That is not true, because technology is a great equalizer in the emerging countries. All emerging countries have a commonality of having resources being denied to certain sections of the population. Suddenly, technology is freeing that, and doesn't matter whether you're rich, poor, you're getting access to the mainstream of the country, of being able to communicate, being able to use technology and see what's going on in the world, get information by using the internet, by using the mobile phone. So people are interested and they'll buy it. It's not just a question of the money. Again, as Dr. Bell said, in Asia, a total re-imaging of the role of the mobile. The mobile is not just for communication in Asia. It's about a lot of other things. It's about doing business. So much business is done by entrepreneurs and very small businesses just using the mobile. So there are new things we are inventing in Asia in terms of mobile usage. Social networks. The emerging markets are the most intense users of social networking sites. This is such a big surprise. This was a survey that's done regularly by an international advertising agency called Universal McCann. And every survey they've done reveals that whether it's Asia, Africa, Latin America, intense and frequent use of social networking, sharing of photographs, videos, etc. The developed countries do not seem to have that intense usage of social networking. It ties in with the fact that many a times a lot of people in emerging countries have been denied a voice, denied a forum to express themselves, and now these are available. You can't stop them from being used. So naturally, such high intense rates of usage. Looking at Egypt, we were trying to see, well, how is Egypt similar or different? And we noticed that, again, in Egypt, there's a very large segment that is very young, and there's a very small segment, actually, that's older. This is very different from a lot of developed countries where the older population is a larger segment of the population. Therefore, there's a lot of innovation going on for older people. Similarly, looking at urban-rural for Egypt, it's like China. So it's sort of got a largish urban, but not at all like Brazil or Russia. Different from India, where India is very rural, but it's very much like China. Literacy rates, really good literacy rate, much higher than India. Lower than China. What it tells you is your problems of illiteracy are not as intense as we face in India as designers. Everything we design, we have to innovate thinking about large, large numbers of illiterate people. But you've succeeded in having much better education literacy rates. And for Egypt, the measures of culture, Egypt is supposed to, from what I saw, have a very high power distance, so it is a hierarchical culture, and you have to tell me whether that's right or not. That's what I get from the internet, that it's hierarchical. Okay, so you're saying we are not. I see some vigorous nods, so that's right. It's also supposed to be a culture that's really, this is interesting. There's always an impression that Egypt is, gender inequality exists a lot. But if I look at the measure, it's not. You're much more equal than a lot of other countries which feel as if they are more equal. You're actually much more equal. Again, this is what I see on the net, that there is male-female equality. Is that right? Well, if you say men will say it's right and women will say it's right, that's equality. In the other countries, only men will say it's right. Women will not. So, sorry? Meaning? There is a lot of inequality. Ah, interesting. Why do you, so can you explain why, what makes you say that? Is it unequal opportunities? Really? Okay. Though, of course, I don't know if you've seen the latest report on the most unsafe countries in the world for women. The latest United Nations report. The top 5 countries, which, of course, unfortunately, I feel so ashamed. India is 4th out of the top 5 countries. Why? Because of extreme inequality in terms of female feticide, female infanticide, honor killing, trafficking, etc. Terrible. So what you're saying is maybe it's not that bad, but there is a lot of inequality in Egypt. So it's ranked at 52, which is the average for the world is 50.2. Most countries are 50, around that measure. So it's